What if I told you that a silent war is unfolding right now? No missiles, no tanks, just tariffs and digital currency, and it's shaking the global economy to its core. In a world already grappling with inflation, supply chain chaos, and digital transformation, the United States has just made a move that could change everything. Billions of dollars in trade with China have been canceled. Ports are overwhelmed, goods are frozen in limbo, and a new form of economic warfare is unfolding. Not with bombs, but with bytes and blockchain. What we're witnessing isn't just a trade war. This is a financial Cold War in real time. The U.S. has abruptly pulled the plug on over $2.8 billion worth of Chinese imports. As a result, more than 25,000 containers now sit abandoned at key ports like Shanghai and Shenzhen, massive hubs that have now turned into graveyards of global trade. This sudden rupture is due to soaring tariffs, with the U.S. imposing record-breaking levies on Chinese goods. American companies are scrambling, desperately trying to reroute supply chains through Southeast Asia. But the theory isn't matching the reality. Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia are already overwhelmed, their factories maxed out. Logistics costs are exploding, and what was supposed to be a plan B has turned into a logistical nightmare. But China isn't backing down. Manufacturers there have refused to lower prices despite mounting pressure. And Beijing has just unveiled a weapon far more disruptive than any tariff: ECNY, or digital yuan. This isn't just a virtual wallet, it's an encrypted, programmable financial system that could redefine the global economy. While the West argues about interest rates, China has quietly disconnected from SWIFT, the international banking network, and built its own, CIPS. As of now, nearly 40% of China's trade bypasses the dollar completely. From Argentina to Kenya, countries are beginning to settle major transactions in yuan. Southeast Asia has shifted over 33% of its trade with China into non-dollar currencies. In just 2 years, the yuan's global share has tripled from 1.9% to 6%. This isn't idealism. This is survival. The ECNY offers real-time payments, smart contracts, and transactions without middlemen. Between Hong Kong and the UAE, settlement times have been cut from days to seconds. CIPS is now processing over $83 billion every single day. China isn't just trading with its digital currency, it's building global projects on top of it. From high-speed railways in Laos to deep-sea ports in Pakistan, over a dozen countries in the Belt and Road Initiative now use ECNY. China owns the financial rails, the stations, and the trains. So here we are, caught in a silent economic war. One side is coding smart contracts. The other is rewriting tax rules. One is building a programmable economy. The other is slapping on century-high tariffs. But in this battle of financial dominance, the question remains, who's really in control of the world's money? And what happens if we lose that control? Don't blink. This isn't just another trade dispute. It might just be the moment the global economic order rewired itself. What if I told you a single sentence erased $10 trillion from the global economy? And it all started with a tariff war between two giants. In the high-stakes world of global economics, a new storm is brewing, and it's bigger than anything we've seen before. America has launched its most aggressive trade strike yet, and China is firing back with equal force. From soybeans to semiconductors, nothing is safe. As tariffs skyrocket and markets plummet, one question remains: is this economic warfare or the collapse of a global order? Let's unpack what's really going on between Washington and Beijing and why it could change the world forever. It began with a bold move. In retaliation for steep U.S. tariffs, China just dropped a massive 34% levy on all American imports, zeroing in on the backbone of rural America. Products like pork, sorghum, and soybeans, the lifeblood of Trump's political base, have now become bargaining chips in a dangerous economic game. Just last year, the U.S. exported $15 billion in agriculture to China. Today, that trade pipeline is on the verge of collapse. But Trump isn't flinching. Instead, he's doubled down, raising tariffs on Chinese goods to a brutal 50%, bringing the total U.S. tariff rate to an earth-shattering 104%. That's the highest in the entire history of U.S.-China trade. This isn't just policy, it's war. What does that mean for everyday people? Imagine a $20 toy costing $40, a $400 iPhone becoming an $800 luxury. A basic car? It could spike by $6,000 overnight. For American consumers, the blow is already hitting their wallets, and hard. And yet, China didn't just answer with tariffs. Beijing turned off the tap on something even more powerful: rare earth metals. These elements are the invisible force behind smartphones, electric cars, military tech, and space exploration. China controls up to 90% of global production. Now, U.S. companies must apply for licenses to access them, and those licenses are rarely granted. Experts are calling it a disguised embargo. Within hours of Washington's tariff announcement, Asian markets went into meltdown. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index nosedived 13%, the sharpest drop in 30 years. Shanghai lost $500 billion in a single day. The shockwaves spread to Wall Street, sending U.S. markets tumbling 15% in days. Investors bailed, hedge funds fled to gold, and economic analysts began whispering a frightening term: shock therapy. But this isn't just about economics, it's about psychology. At a press conference that will go down in history, Trump refused to walk back the tariffs, declaring, "There are no plans to pause." And with that one sentence, global confidence evaporated. He then threw another curveball, calling for open borders in the same speech where he championed strict immigration. The contradiction sent media and markets into a frenzy. Even members of his own team were reportedly baffled. And if that weren't enough, Trump turned the spotlight to the Middle East, suggesting that the U.S. should take control of Gaza and even resettle Palestinians. Critics compared the remarks to forced migrations that led to humanitarian disasters. Meanwhile, he claimed victory on domestic issues, insisting food prices were down, interest rates were falling, and that groceries were cheaper than ever. But the data paints a different picture. The cost of living remains painfully high for millions. Eggs haven't dropped 79%, and most families are still struggling to keep up. Experts say this isn't about facts, it's about feelings. Groceries isn't just a word, it's a symbol of struggle, a messaging tool crafted for emotional resonance. But facts don't lie. On the global stage, Trump also claimed that American automakers are being blocked from Europe. In reality, companies like Tesla and GM are shipping tens of thousands of vehicles overseas. The real damage? It's happening at home. U.S. car factories are downsizing, jobs are vanishing, and auto prices are climbing fast. And now Europe is retaliating with its own 25% tariff on U.S. products. Major corporations are scrambling. Apple is eyeing India. And if every iPhone were made in the U.S., the price could skyrocket to $30,000, far beyond the reach of the average American. As the United States increasingly turns inward, focusing on domestic issues and protectionist policies, China is seizing the opportunity to expand its global influence by forging deeper trade relationships with Europe and the developing world. This shift signals the emergence of a new global trade order, one that could see the United States no longer occupying the central leadership role it has held since the end of World War II. While Washington appears to be retreating from multilateral trade agreements and engaging in tariff wars, Beijing is doing the opposite, embracing globalization, investing in infrastructure across continents, and championing free trade in strategic ways that serve its long-term economic and geopolitical interests. So what's next for the global economy? Will cooler heads prevail, or are we racing toward an economic abyss? Don't look away, because what we're witnessing might just be the biggest economic plot twist of the century. What if I told you that a quiet move by China just flipped the global economy on its head, and your bank account might be next? A financial earthquake just rippled across the globe, and most people haven't even noticed. China has just taken a historic leap by embedding its digital yuan into the payment systems of 10 ASEAN countries and 6 Middle Eastern nations. This isn't just a trade decision, it's a seismic shift in power. For the first time ever, over a third of global trade could now bypass the US-controlled SWIFT system. What does that mean for the dollar? For global markets? For your wallet? Let's break it down. Beijing's plan couldn't be more clear. Step 1. Build a financial architecture that operates independently from Western influence. Step 2. Champion the digital yuan as a stable, alternative currency, insulated from the volatility of the US dollar and free from Washington's sanctions game. And the timing, not accidental. This bold move came just after former President Trump threw down fresh tariffs, a strategic counterpunch that challenged the very foundation of American economic dominance. Now let's talk numbers. In 2022, trade between China and ASEAN skyrocketed to $975 billion, a jaw-dropping 120% jump from just a decade ago. ASEAN is now China's top trading partner. And with digital yuan transactions becoming the new norm across Asia and the Middle East, we might be witnessing the end of the dollar's global monopoly. But here's where the story gets even more intense. China has cut ties with ASML and TSMC, two titans of semiconductor technology. Why? The U.S. pressured the Dutch government to revoke export licenses for DUV machines, essential tools for making advanced chips. That move left $15 billion worth of equipment in China effectively bricked. No updates, no support, no maintenance. China's response? Ruthless and masterfully calculated. Since 2022, China has quietly been rebuilding its chip industry from the ground up. With $75 billion in government-backed funding, over 50,000 engineers, and a return of top talent from Silicon Valley, China went from tech chaser to tech pioneer in just 3 years. Now 60 to 70% of semiconductor equipment used in China is locally made. Even chip design software? Made in China. And here's the kicker. They no longer need EUV machines. Shenzhen-based company CCAR claims it has developed DUV lithography capable of producing chips under 7 nanometers. Remember the Huawei Mate 60 Pro? Its 7-nanometer chip shocked the world, and it was completely built with domestic tech. SMIC is now testing 5-nanometer chips with 3-nanometer ambitions using AI-powered fabrication and advanced patterning techniques. This isn't a game of catch-up anymore. China is pulling ahead. Meanwhile, the fallout is devastating for the West. ASML's revenue crashed 27% in Q4 2024, a brutal hit to Europe's tech backbone. But semiconductors were just the beginning. China also began selling off U.S. government bonds and ditching American tech stocks like Apple and Nvidia. This isn't just a chip war anymore. It's a currency war. And the battleground is your economy. Mortgage rates could skyrocket. Tech stocks might nosedive. Retirement funds at risk. Just a few calculated moves by Beijing, and Wall Street could collapse like a house of cards. All of this leads to one truth. The global economic order is shifting, fast. And with China now producing its own chips, minting its own financial networks, and reshaping global markets. We're not in Silicon Valley anymore, but now the tectonic plates of power are shifting and the epicenter of innovation is moving eastward, toward what many are now calling Dragon Valley. China has done what few thought possible in such a short span of time. Faced with mounting export bans, sanctions, and international pressure, Beijing responded not with retreat, but with resilience. When access to foreign semiconductor technology was abruptly cut off, particularly the high-precision lithography equipment from Dutch giant ASML and chip manufacturing services from Taiwan's TSMC, many assumed it would cripple China's ambitions. But instead of breaking, China began building. Within just 3 years, China has cultivated a nearly self-reliant semiconductor supply chain. Factories across the country now run on domestically developed equipment capable of producing chips at advanced nodes. State-backed companies like SMIC and SECAR have stepped up with bold claims and even bolder progress. From achieving 7-nanometer production with deep ultraviolet lithography, once thought impossible, to pushing for 5-nanometer and even 3-nanometer capabilities with AI-assisted design and multi-patterning techniques, China is not just keeping pace. In many ways, it's rewriting the rules of the game. President Trump has already threatened 50% tariffs if China doesn't back off. China's answer? We'll fight to the end. And trust me, they mean it. This isn't just about semiconductors or sanctions. This is about the future of money, the future of technology, and possibly the future of the world economy. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because this economic battle is just beginning, and you'll want to be here when the next move is made.